And this is our slide deck for 1.4 for Level 1 of HRS from the Teresa Bunker Elementary HRS Leadership Team.
And this is our data for level 1.4, so teacher teams and collaborative groups regularly interact to address common issues regarding curriculum, assessment, instruction, and the achievement of all students. So our initial data put us at a 2.7, and these are the survey results from our 2021-2022 school year. And then we also have our follow-up that we presented to teachers after we showed them our 1.4 slide deck and everything that we have put into place since the initial survey. And we actually grew and are now up to a 4 on our 1.4 overall. And here is our staff survey results asking them that question and the response to each response in regard to collaborative teams regularly interact. And then this slide is our lagging area, our lagging indicator. So we declared this as an area of weakness due to our survey results. So we are working this year to create a structure within our school for leadership teams in the area of instruction, organization, operations, and culture of student achievement. We have created 4 main leadership teams at Bunker, and these teams meet either bi-weekly or monthly to discuss celebrations, concerns, and next steps. We are going to work on improving as we work to improve our school. And the leadership teams are the HRS, Instructional Leadership Team, the Bobcat Organizational Team, and the PBIS Positive Behavior Team. And then we also have our MDT and CAT team, which work on student achievement and problem solving. And this following slide is our lagging indicator. So these are everything that was in place at the time of the survey. Which is our PLC team agendas and notes. We had our leadership teams, agendas and notes and roles. We also had an HRS team, a PBIS team, and we had our MDT and CAT team. And then we also had weekly faculty meetings. So the following slides kind of support the evidence that all of those things were in place at the time of the survey.
Okay, on the next slide, we have the PLC agenda. These are just some examples and notes. If you click on the link, it'll take you to an example of that, of their PLC. On the right, we have the PLC folder for Bunker, so that those are stored in that fact folder by grade level. On the next slide, we have the leadership teams and the roles. If you click on the link, it'll take you to the drive for each of those teams. For the leadership / HRS folder, then we have the PBIS team and the MDT team.
And these were all folders that were put in place our previous school year, so that has been since restructured into a more organizational way.
The next slide shows and has the link for the HRS team meeting agendas last year. Excuse me. Those were kept and summarized and sent out to the staff each time the HRS team met. Just trying to keep everyone in the loop, but we'll see later how that has been a little bit different this year. Similarly, the next one, the PBIS, we have Positive Behavior Interventions team, as well as the next one, the MDT and CAT team meetings, agendas, and notes. Again, like what's been said, those were all in place, and you can click on those links to see how things were going prior to this year's implementation of improvements. Finally, the faculty meetings are there, same fashion. There were notes taken and they were kept in a big shared drive. But then moving on to the next slide, you'll see that we did put some things in place to improve in this area.
So since we decided that 1.4 was a weakness and we needed to improve upon it, we put together an action plan that we were going to implement for opportunities for our staff involvement and increased transparency in our decision-making process. So we have we have our PLC process presentation. We also have our PLC structure that we have been working on. We've got our teams in place, our norms, our agendas, and our data that we focus on during our PLC team meetings. We have an MDT status agenda put into place so that teachers are aware of where their students are currently in when they are currently in process for referral. We also have our CAT referral form. We have our leadership teams and roles, which have been newly reformed and for our 2022-2023 school year. We also have the Bobcat organizational team that has been put into place, and their role has been restructured. And then we had our HRS Mini Summit PD, which kind of put us all on the same page as far as instructional rounds and such. So the following slides are evidence that link to our action plan and those things that we have put in place this year.
So the next slide just shows the beginning of the year presentation and a faculty meeting on just the PLC process. Coming into a new building as a principal, I just wanted to make sure that we had that conversation about what the PLC process looked like to make sure we're doing the right work. So if you click on it, it just takes you through a slideshow that we went over in a faculty meeting at the very beginning of the year that just really kind of delineates the 4 questions and the cycle of a PLC just to make sure that we're all on the same page. We had teachers that had been doing it previously, but we also had 4 new teachers to our building this year that had not participated necessarily in this type of a PLC or in this process. And so we really just reviewed it so that everybody would be on the same page when we go back into our teams. And we are organized by grade level teams. There are 2 teachers per grade level, kindergarten through 6th. And so each PLC has 2 teachers. And as we organized that, I just wanted to make sure that we all knew exactly what that process looked like and what the expectations were. So that was the presentation from the beginning of the year.
And then this next slide shows the PLC agendas, norms, and notes. Some examples. There are 3 different examples there, one from 1st grade, 3rd grade, and 5th and 6th grade band that did their PLC time together. And if you click on those, you'll see that the forms are different, although they all work around this cycle, the PLC cycle. The agendas lead the teams to making informed decisions based on data, and they do that as they work through those 4 essential questions. You'll see on the next slide, there's actually links, a couple of examples of links to that data, where you see that they're following up on a short-term SMART goal, and then they're following up, here's where we are, and there'll be discussions recorded in there that show how they've chosen to address the students that have met that goal, as well as what they're going to do to help the students who are still striving toward that goal.
I was just going to include that we just had a meeting this morning with Phil from HRS, and he gave us great feedback on our agendas and gave us some good guidance to improve on our short-term SMART goals and long-term SMART goals. And so we have some good guidance with that of making sure that each team has a short-term SMART goal that we're kind of checking in on frequently to manage our work.
And then this is just our PLC process flow chart. It's just kind of outlines the questions of the PLC and then making sure that we're following that process. While some teachers use this as their note-taking strategies for PLC, and others use a different type of note-taking agenda. This is the process that every group and every team is following.
On the next slide, we have the MDT status agenda. So this is, if you click on the link, it'll take you to an example of an agenda. They meet weekly to discuss individual needs of students. The classroom teacher can submit a form to the MDT team, and it indicates their area of concern they have, whether it's academic or behaviorally for their student, and then the action plan is developed.
And the team is consisted of both of our special education teachers, our school psychologist, our speech therapist, and we also invite, you'll see Samantha Scheer on there. She's our district consulting teacher for special education, and then our counselor and myself, the principal, are also part of that MDT team.
And then this is just an example of the CAT referral form. So as teachers are meeting in their PLC groups and defining weaknesses that students may have, and then changing up intervention and trying different things, and they're still not showing an improvement, then they go ahead and they fill out the CAT form that kind of describes our reason for our referral, who brought it forward, and then steps that were taken to try to resolve that issue. And then that MDT team kind of meets on those notes that are submitted by the teacher and then reviews those as a group.
Okay.
And because so much of the good work that goes on in this school comes out of those teacher teams, we've included this Bunker leadership teams diagram again here. Not only was it in 1.3, as the teachers as individuals have opportunities to have influence, the teacher teams can often turn, rather than just a CAC form, they can see who their school leaders are with these different focus areas and are able to approach them with ideas or questions about what's going on within one of those areas in the school. And so that you can click on the links there, and that'll give you more information about what each of those leadership teams do. The next slide shows what their meeting agendas are like and their notes, and the links again would take you to the minutes of their meetings that you can see. Teachers and teams of teachers have access to all of the great work that's being done in these leadership teams. The next slide is this flow chart that's still in a draft form, just because we know that it's what we want. We want that ability to have a organized way to respond, not react whenever something's going on that involves discipline. And that's why on the back of it, or the next slide, you'll again see those ideas for managing behavior and kind of de-escalating things. Yes, there's going to be a consequence. No, we're not going to discuss that right now, but you know. And so we just kind of all get on the same page, and it helps us be more consistent as a staff or as a team of teachers. A lot of that came out of our HRS mini summit that we had in January.
Yeah, we all attended an HRS summit for PD in January, and we learned a lot of great information for guiding our HRS team, including doing instructional rounds, which we plan on doing before the end of the school year.
And all of our staff attended the instructional rounds session. We just decided as a building that we knew that was the next step of what we wanted to do moving into level 2 and for our instruction and to grow that piece out. So all of our teachers attended that session for instructional rounds. I think it was with Toby, right?
Yep.
So we are developing a schedule for instructional rounds to kind of start that also at Bunker moving forward.
And since those teacher teams working in the PLC process together really are the crux of this level 1.4, we've added a slide of evidence there where you'll be able to hit the links and the arrows and watch 3 different grade levels: first grade, third grade, and fourth grade, with an authentic PLC session. Real time.
Yeah. Excellent. On the last slide, the PLC in action videos, we have our 3 PLC meetings in action videos for you to view and see. I think we've got a first grade at the top, and then a third grade and a fourth grade. And then as far as monitoring the PLC work from a principal standpoint, the teachers are meeting with their PLC and their teacher partner in their classroom, so they have all of their resources. And then we are working on looking at agendas and SMART goals for next year and moving into next year. But I just kind of come around to the PLC meetings on Late Start Friday. They are for an hour. We start school an hour later on Fridays, and teachers at Bunker meet from 7:40 to 8:40 in the morning with their PLC teams. And I just come around and visit with them about kind of where they are within that process. And then we'll be tightening that up and having it be a little bit more of a planned monitoring system and really guiding teachers through SMART goals as well next year.
Okay, and that's the end of 1.4.